Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m., and that's Eastern Time. Thank you so much for being with us. You can still find us on the radio. You can find us on television, Channel 182 Charter Communications. You can also find us on Abundance Television Syndicated, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com and all the social media sites. You can't get away from us if you tried. And we're working on some things in South Carolina. I'll be keeping you in perspective about that just as soon as it happens. I promise several things are happening. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Continue sending emails. It makes my day. You make this old humble country gal right here feel good. Donna at donnasedge.com. That's Donna at donnasedge.com. And again, thank you. You know why the show is so popular? It's because we have fantastic guests. And this guy is one of them, a good friend of mine. His name is Attorney Don Brown. His first name's Attorney. Don is his middle name, and then Brown. And he's an author, and he's a speaker. And I'm going to say he's one of those guys you want to go to if you want to know the truth, even if it hurts. Ouch. And it has several times. Don, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Don. I say the show's popular because of the magnificent host. And your guests just you drag us along. We get to hang with the stars. So, you know, it's your star and this rubs off on us, Donna. But it's an honor to be here with you today. And it's a great day. And so looking forward to the next 2 minutes.
I'll pay you the $50 for saying that later. Can I send an IOU?
Of course. Anything for you.
Oh, and how can folks get in contact with you? Your books are magnificent.
DonBrownBooks.com. Go to Amazon, type in Don Brown. And we have about 16 of them out now, and had one out come right out for a week before the election called Kangaroo Court, and that's still floating around out there. So glad to sign any books for anybody that wants to read, and had some folks in the office today picking up a couple. So hope they'll do some good.
Good. I know it will. Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Okay, because I'm celebrating kind of, sort of, with President Trump coming in, but that thought always lingers. What's up their sleeve? Can anything get messed up at this point?
Well, you're asking the right question. What is up their sleeve? You know, Biden's been trying to do everything he can to be an obstructionist. You know, he's tried to lock down offshore oil leases, among other things. I had a military contact tell me just yesterday, as a matter of fact, that the Biden administration has sent a Air Force or a U.S. military plane, didn't specify as Air Force or Navy, to Ghana to pick up Karen Bass and bring her back in the wake of all this disaster that we're having. And so the issue isn't just, you know, what's it going to do between now and then. I'm probably expecting some massive pardons, probably for his brother and maybe for everybody else in the Democrat orbit, whether it's Anthony Fauci or whatever. But what are they going to do as soon as the Trump administration sets into place? And I've used an analogy before. You know, rattlesnakes, they go into their holes in the wintertime, but eventually they peek their little beady eyes out of those holes with their fangs. And I expect the communist Democrats to do the same thing. So who knows? It's interesting. I saw President Trump with some Republican governors the other day. For example, he had Glenn Youngkin on one side and Jeff Landry of Louisiana on the other side, Youngkin being the governor of Virginia, and several other Republican governors, and they were talking about these drones. And Youngkin said, yeah, we got a problem with them in Virginia. They're flying over military bases. Landry said the same thing, and several other piped up. And these drones were all over the place, and they're not being reported, except for the ones that were there in New Jersey, which is near the national media. So it's kind of hard to hide those there. Trump said he'll get to it on day one, but we don't know what to expect. It's going to be something. You can count on them trying something, and they're going to test them somehow in some way. So, but I think he's up to the task, and he's got an outstanding set of cabinet members that he has nominated. In fact, we're getting ready to see, I think Pete Hegseth's hearings start tomorrow, this week at least, and so we'll see how all that goes.
What are your thoughts about the certification?
The certification of the election, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Well, I thought it was rather enjoyable, to tell you the truth, to watch Kamala have to certify the president after all that time. You know, so I watched the whole thing, as a matter of fact, and found it quite enjoyable.
Well, I just find it's just interesting. Okay, so you remember the jealous schoolgirl who would, she would be jealous of the homecoming queen or whatever, because I saw that happen a lot in school. And so she couldn't run on her own merit. So she would have to try to take the other girl down. They had like a bunch of jealous schoolgirls. I mean, are we in elementary school again?
Well, the jealous schoolgirl look came out not just in the certification, but during Carter's funeral when Trump and Obama are there back there, laughing it up about something, and Kamala turns around and looks like, she's furious, and she's not part of the club. A lot of these little dynamics are going on, but she got her tail beat pretty bad, and they deserved it. And it's not the time to rest on our laurels. We've got to take them all down, because what these Democrats have done to this country, they cannot be allowed to get away with it. Somebody's got to pay a price for we're about to, within 1 week, end the most disastrous administration in our lifetime, barring none. And Jimmy Carter, God bless him, he got to live to see an administration worse than his, too, if you ask me, when you count the Obama administration as well. So, but these political prosecutions, people who have been involved in this have to pay. If you ask me, people who have been pushing this dangerous vaccine need to pay. We need to get in a situation where vaccination manufacturers are not exempt. You're not exempt from a lawsuit, Donna, neither am I. General Motors, Ford, they're not exempt for lawsuits. Why should Pfizer and Moderna, why would these vaccine manufacturers be exempt? Why should they have special protection? People have got to pay for what's happening. We're seeing people drop like flies. And the only explanation is these vaccinations. And as I've said before on this network and others, I was involved in very intensive vaccination litigation. I can tell you they're very dangerous. And so people are going to have to pay a price for the damage they've caused to this country, all the while President Trump marches forward to strip away the dangerous and the destructive regulations that Biden put into play. Mm-hmm. And even as DEI appears to be coming to an end, at least on the surface, we've got to destroy it. And what we're seeing a temporary end to this communist philosophy that they tried to ram down people's throats. And they tried a little bit too much too fast, and it backfired on them. So we must be ever vigilant that they will be back. They're just picking their time, and they'll be back just as soon as the first opening arrives for them. And we got to take them out before that happens.
I think so too. They're out now, but I think they're really going to start the second Trump puts his hand on the Bible. They're going to start. It'll be nonstop, just like it was before. But I think people are smarter than they were a few years ago.
Oh, definitely. And of course, everybody enough Americans saw through all the lawfare BS that they tried to use to take them down this time. People say it's ridiculous. And so they tend to overplay their hand. But no, they will certainly try. Gavin Newsom certainly is in a weaker position than he was 2 weeks ago because of the mismanagement of these fires. And in California, I saw the city of Los Angeles had cut the budget for the fire department, had sent fighting equipment to Ukraine, of all places, but was spending taxpayers' money on a gay men's choir and on junk like transgender cafes. So they're spending public money on that kind of DEI junk. Mm-hmm. And they've got a DEI mayor, they got a DEI fire chief, they got DEI this, DEI that, all the while the city burns down. And if these folks out in California, I feel for them. It's kind of like you feel for somebody got went to the bar and had too much to drink and got in a wreck, and now they're in the hospital in intensive care. You feel bad that they're in pain, but on the other hand, they brought it on themselves, and that's the way I feel about California. They may be in pain in LA, but they brought it on themselves. You vote for Democrats, this is what you're going to get. We've got to expose that and ram that point home.
Okay, here's the point. Okay. So, this happens all the time. California fires have been going. From what I hear from my friends who live in California, Victoria is one of them. And Victoria said, here's the problem. It has to go. And she's, by the way, conservative. And she said there's not many Democrats where she's at right now in California. And more people. She said, actually, the bigger population of the state of California really is Republican. And they were Trumpsters. There's a few mingled, kind of like Alabama, like everywhere else. But this was her point. She said, it's just you have to jump all these hoops. She said, in Alabama, you get a fire, what happens? And I said, well, a bunch of good old boys come out and we all put the fire out. They can't do that there. There's so many rules and so many regulations. They want to keep it with government red tape. They want that to happen at the risk of losing cities.
You're exactly right. The Democrats worship regulations and red tape. That's what they're all about. And they tie your hands with all the junk you've got to go through to get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. As an aside, I've told this story before, but my mom, the last 4 months of her life, my sister and I were with her. She had congestive heart failure, and she was in 2 different hospitals. One down at ECU in Greenville, North Carolina, and then the last couple of months at the University Hospital in Chapel Hill. And my sister and I would take turns, and she was never left alone, but, you know, I got to be friends with a number of nurses at both hospitals, and they were frustrated because when you're in a room with a loved one, and the nurse is outside on a computer having to type in stuff and type in and type. They spend so much time logging codes, they can't get to their patients. And the nurses all said they hated that. But that's what Democrats do. And, you know, California has been taken over by Democrats. Of course, like your friend Victoria and others there, I know great conservatives in California. You get more conservatives there than anything, except for the problem is you got nutcases, and the Democrats there are absolute nutcases. And so the question is, are they going to be able to put 2 and 2 together and realize when you vote Democrat, you're voting for the destruction of your city and destruction of your state? Are you going to come to that conclusion? These Democrats want to say a historic first this, a historic first that, a historic first Lesbo fire chief, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And they put on this historic first ram DEI down your throat over competency and over good sense and good judgment. So will the good citizens of California, the Democrats, are they going to see the light? And your friend is right. There are large swaths of California, the conservative. You look at the 2024 election, just about every eastern county, you know, California comes down like this. All the counties in the east along the Arizona border and the Nevada border, they were all Republican, all red. And Orange County, which abuts the coast, was red also. It's those coastal counties that have gone berserk. And unfortunately, between San Francisco and LA, you got such a large population center. And so many are moving to San Diego now. When I was in San Diego had a Republican mayor, Roger Hedgecott. And, you know, now they've got nutcases. They just come into these big cities and they take control. But California is not irredeemable. But the folks are going to have to look and understand, you vote Democrat, this is exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get DEI over competency. You're going to get destruction. And now the idiot government out there, the idiot governor is trying to push, you know, Californians into doing away with gas engines within the next few years and going to all electric. How stupid is that? Will they pull back from that idiocy based on what's happened? I doubt it. Trump in 2018 was pushing Gavin Newsom to engage in decent type of forest management, you know, whereby you go and you cut fire lines and you bring water in. And, you know, the reservoirs were empty when the fire started. I saw one fire hydrant painted the rainbow colors to celebrate, quote unquote, diversity. There's no water into the bottom of that, you know, rainbow colored fire hydrant. So what are you going to do? If you're in California and you're a Democrat, are you going to keep voting for this idiocy? I mean, if you're going to vote for this idiocy, you're going to continue to get the same result. So there's an old saying from Forrest Gump, I should say, that stupid is as stupid does. Don't be stupid is as stupid does, California. Start voting conservative and throw the Democrat bums out on their ears.
Let's talk common sense here. I mean, just common horse sense. I would rather be around a farmer with no degree than to be around somebody like that who talks total nonsense. Okay, so you know we're through this whole thing. Everybody gets their feelings hurt. Well, the way I was raised, you just stand up and you just keep going. I mean, you don't stop and let everybody have a pity party with you. There's no way. So that's what the country has turned into as a whole, where everybody gets their feelings hurt. But let me tell you something. The first people that when we were in the hiring business, we had all the cell phone stores, 8 locations. It kept us busy. We were constantly on the hiring mode. The ones I hired were the ones that I would ask the simple question. When you are cooking, do you wash the dishes as you go, or do you wait and wash the dishes later? Well, the ones who said I wash the dishes as they go those are the ones I hired. You know, I'm going to tell you why. It's just a simple analogy. It was my grandmother actually voiced that in my head. Okay. If you're washing dishes as you go, when you're cooking, you're more organized, okay? They're not going to be piled up for you to look at and say, well, I'll just wait and do that tomorrow.
Right.
It's simple analogies. It's simple things. It's just do it. My grandmother is the one who thumbed "Let's Do It" from the shoe company, tennis shoe company. She used to say that all the time. And lazy teenager, I would say, "I'll do that." Like my grandmother would say, "Just do it."
Just do it. That's it.
We need that. We need more of that in this country, and I think we're going to get it. I know we're going to get it with Trump.
No question. No question. We're about to see a massive ideological shift back to the right here in about 1 week. And the real issue is, what are the Democrats going to throw in? What sort of roadblocks are going to throw to try to block it? And I'm hoping this time they get bulldozed when they try. They deserve to be bulldozed. So we'll see how it flies.
Okay.
It's kind of funny, you got John Fetterman, who came into the Senate like as the dumbest Democrat, appears to be the one now that's talking more common sense than any Democrat around. And we had like 13 Democrat senators vote for the Lincoln Riley Act, and so a lot of them are kind of abandoning the radicalism that they know has absolutely sunk that party. But the problem is that they're still the majority, Donna. They're still you still got Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi's been there 1,000 years. AOC, the same old nutcases. And you look in California, look at Karen Bass. Joe Biden was looking at her a possible vice presidential pick initially. I mean, that's how bad. I mean, they're looking. He was determined on what he's going to pick a woman of color. I mean, I don't care whether it's a woman of color or a pale white dude. I want the best candidate. Mm-hmm. What do you want? You want a DEI pick to perform open heart surgery on you? Give me a break. And how much more important it is when you're putting somebody in a position of governmental power like that has access to nuclear codes. You're looking at, filling positions based on DEI. That's what they've done. And then they celebrate a historic first and blah, 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 blah. And it's just the same old junk. They brought that Sam Bankman dude in at the beginning of the Biden administration. Dude wearing a red dress, a dude wearing a red dress. This dude they put in charge of nuclear waste, and the Senate confirms him. And then they want to complain about Pete Hegseth or Kash Patel or Tulsi Gabbard or Bobby Kennedy, whoever it is, when they confirmed Lloyd Austin. Our own Republicans did that. A number of them did, and they complain about Pete Hegseth. I mean, come on.
It's incredible. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start on Trump. So if there was really anything to what these stupid Democrats, and I'm including a lot of my relatives, they still believe this nonsense about Trump. Okay.
Sure.
So my question to these crazy cousins of mine are, okay, I really don't want to get into it with you because you're plain stupid and I just can't deal with it. But I want to ask one question. Okay, so if you people really had something, if you really had your teeth into something against Trump, wouldn't that have happened 8 years ago? I mean, 10 years ago? Couldn't you have made your point by now?
Well, of course. But, Donna, you're asking logical questions. You used the phrase emotional earlier. And these Democrats and these liberals, they concoct this emotional paradigm and they govern totally by emotion. So if their emotions tell them Trump bad, Orange man bad, there's nothing logically that they're willing to accept to move them off of the emotional obsession that they're on. But we still got to hit them with the facts because there may be people listening to the discussion who are willing to look at the facts. Mm-hmm. But, good luck moving them. Good luck moving them. We're seeing some begin to come over, but the ones who are entrenched into this vicious Trump hatred, I guess they still probably need to have a little bit of counseling here because he's getting ready to take the oath of office, and they're going to be outnumbered all the way down. So, but I think as you and I continue to spend time with each other as we move through, the rest of the winter months and into the spring, we'll see, what sort of strategy they're going to have that unfolds. Certainly, as we look to the midterms coming up, so many U.S. Senate seats are going to be on the line. They're going to do everything they can to, try to retake control of the Senate, and they're going to throw everything they can at the president and at Republicans. And of course, the truth has never been a barometer or any type of litmus test for their accusations. Just like when Harry Reid simply made up the thing about Mitt Romney and his tax returns. And somebody asked him after the fact if it was true. He said, no. Then why'd you do it? He said, well, I just made it up and laughed about it. That's what they do. So
he said it worked, didn't it? That's what he said. He said it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, of course he said that. So that, you know, the means justify the ends to these Democrats, and that includes simply lying, which was a communist attack. As I've said, what we've been dealing with is English-speaking communists. People got fed up with what they've done to us economically, and people have gotten really, really fed up with the DEI crap they've been ramming down our throats, and it's backfired on them. So, you know, they may back off a little bit to try to gain some traction in the midterms. Wouldn't surprise me if they do. But make no mistake, this is the philosophy they embrace, and this is the philosophy that they worship, and they're not going to give it up, you know, unless they're totally destroyed.
Okay, one of my friends, Trey, who is a very big conservative, and I just love this dude. He's a young guy, okay? So he said, I did a cost comparison. I wanted to send it to you. So he sends me this cost comparison, and it's about his Walmart orders, because you can keep a tally. If you make an order on Walmart.com, you can keep a tally on what you spent and put whatever date to see how much you spent in this particular period of time. So he did the 4 years as Trump being a president. He was spending an average of $500 a month on groceries. Then he did another tally. Now, he has a garden like I do, so, you know, he's grown into that. So actually his expenses haven't been that much because he grows his own food. However, he went on ahead, goes to Walmart.com, does another running tally on what the same amount of food would cost now. More than double.
Right.
More than double. So you're sitting on the fence and you're trying to figure out who the best president was, Trump or Biden. Really, you're sitting on the fence, kidding? You're kidding me?
Right. Well, you're arguing facts and numbers. Some of these emotional Democrats don't care about the facts or numbers. They'll just let themselves imagine anything. Oh, felon, you know, whatever it is they latch onto. They want to become emotional, and they just don't want to look at the numbers. But we have to keep presenting the numbers, because there are enough people in the middle who are willing to look and see, even though, you know, that may be undecided, that will look and see. And that swung very heavily in Trump's direction this time. People were looking at the numbers, and the big swing was among people who weren't, you know, political ideologues like these Democrats are, who worship politics and worship government. So that's why I appreciate what you're doing, Donna, to continue to bring out facts just like that. The grocery bill in that situation almost doubled. It goes back to Biden's proclaimed declaration in 2020 to change oil, to do away with oil and gas like we know it, and to change it. And they did start doing that, and all of the regulations attacking oil and gas drove prices up, drove furniture, food prices up, and everything else trickled down from there. So, and they paid a price for it, and they needed to pay a price for it. So hopefully we're going to be able to the economy should boom with the deregulation. What we do know is every time we've seen a massive deregulation, whether it was with JFK, with Ronald Reagan, and with Trump, that there has been an immediate response by the economy. And I'm expecting the same thing, unless they're going to try something. Are they going to try something that is a wild card that we can't, we haven't factored for? Possible. But short of that, I'm expecting some economic boom as we move into the first 6 months of 2025.
Oh, I think so too. And people are already planning for that. I mean, you can see Zuckerberg. I don't trust him.
No.
With Facebook, I still say he has something up his sleeve as well. But it makes you wonder, why is he all of a sudden now, free for all? Everyone say what they think, kind of a thing. I mean, what's up with him?
Well, you saw Zuckerberg, and Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan, and his chief, I remember which one of his chief, cabinet members was on Fox and Friends, proclaiming they're doing away with their fact-checking program. I think it was the chief information officer who was on Fox and Friends said, well, we meant it for good, but the fact checkers became very left-wing. And Zuckerberg says on Joe Rogan that they were getting lots of pressure the Biden administration. And those are true statements. Those fact checkers were left wing. They're full of it. They fact checked me when I knew my facts were right, but they didn't like the political position I was taking. And Joe Rogan's, Mark Zuckerberg's right. The Biden administration did crack the whip big time on them. But why the change? Well, first off, we can't say for sure, but there are a couple of things I say. Number one, Zuckerberg is looking at what happened with Twitter and Elon Musk when they pulled a lot of restraints down. Twitter has exploded. Number two, you got to be concerned about how the Trump administration would deal with you if you don't get out ahead of the 8 ball and say, hey, no more of this fact checking stuff. We're going to make it a free speech platform. Very clearly, Facebook and Twitter, before it was bought out by Elon, were arms of the Democrat government. And what they were doing basically was violating people's First Amendment rights because the government was censoring speech. Actually, a regulation censoring speech directed to Facebook, or a directive, is the functional equivalent of a law by the federal government censoring speech. And I believe probably that Mark Zuckerberg saw the handwriting on the wall and wanted to get out ahead of it. My view is, and I shared this with some Republican friends of mine early this morning, the early morning breakfast, that I think Facebook and Twitter and these big social media platforms need to be busted up through antitrust, along with Blue Cross, to be honest with you, because if you bust up these big conglomerates, you have smaller operations to fill their position in the marketplace, and there's a better opportunity for competition. It forces everyone to be better in the marketplace, and also brings prices down because of the increased competition. So, but back to your question, I think he saw the handwriting on the wall, and I suspect that he didn't want to be facing some sort of antitrust, action by the Trump Attorney General, or perhaps even any type of investigation into First Amendment suppression by the Trump administration. And I suspect that's driving his change of heart as much as anything, Donna.
Well, I don't necessarily want to put the guy down, but you're talking about someone who's pretty much, not quite the businessman Trump is. And I just wouldn't measure up against him. I think he's finally making a good decision. I think. Let's go ahead and cut to a commercial break.
You
I can't believe half the show. Wow. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, Where Truth Matters. That's why we have Don Brown on the show with us every single month. I'd have him on every day, but he's such a busy, successful man that he doesn't have that much time for me. So I'll take what I can get, Don.
Don, I'd be with you every day if I could. I'm a lucky guy to be with you and Phil, and very excited to be here. So,
well, Phil and I are excited about the move. We're going to have to do lunch. You know that.
I'm in favor of lunch, as you can see.
We're going to have to. Okay, so let's talk about President Trump and all the things. I think it's going to be remarkable, okay, because really when he came in the first time, he made things happen. It was just remarkable how fast he made it happen, because he's not used to he's not a government guy. He's not a politician, so he's used to just, make these plans. I do it, there it's done.
Right.
That's what we have needed for decades.
Well, he wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. And as I've said before, President Trump is a larger than life figure in the American political landscape. And it's kind of a amateur presidential story myself. I can tell you which presidents have been larger than life. You got Washington, you got Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, maybe Teddy Roosevelt. I'd say Teddy Roosevelt. You come into the 20th century, you got the 2 wartime presidents, Roosevelt and Truman, only because they're wartime presidents. Truman dropped the bomb. Then you have JFK, who was martyred and was doing some good things before he was killed, and Ronald Reagan. So those are 8 that are larger than life, and now we're in the 21st century, and Trump looms way up there. And in terms of his unique ability to connect with people and to get things done, we've never seen anything like it. Even with Kennedy and Reagan, as popular as Reagan was and is, and I love Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump has an ability to connect with the working guy that the political pundits never understood. And he comes out as a winner. I mean, who else could survive Access Hollywood? Who else could survive, multiple, bogus criminal prosecutions? I mean, one allegation would have brought down any other politician. But this guy's resilient. And now he comes into office, and as he's coming to office, he's talking about, We're taking the Panama Canal. He's joking about Canada being the 51st state. Trudeau resigns. And now he's talking about the United States and Greenland. And apparently he's now getting direct messages from members of the Danish parliament ready to talk and do some sort of business. So the guy is strategic. This is what I'm saying by larger than life. It's going to be interesting to see how a lot of this plays out, for sure.
No, I can hardly wait. You know, so many times we've been told, or I've been told as a small business person, oh, you can't do that. You can't. My question is always, why not? But you have to listen to who's telling you that you can't do it. Why are they telling you can't? And that's what we've been listening to in the government for decades. Oh, no, you can't do that. We'll leave that to the big boys. Why?
When somebody says you can't do that, Donna, you know, that's a subtle form of trying to control. It's a subtle, passive, aggressive form of control. You can't. Well, why can't I? Because I said you can't. But, you know, like the Bible says, with God, all things are possible. And if it can be, somebody said, if it can be conceived, it can be achieved. And but that's negative nanny stuff you're hearing. You stop and think about with President Trump, for example, going back to the first term when he was going to fulfill a campaign promise to move the U.S. embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and to recognize Jerusalem as the capital. What were all they saying? You can't do that. That'll start over. You can't. And he says, hold my beer and watch me. Of course, the president doesn't drink, so hold my beer is an allegorical term. But he said, watch me. And he moved it. Why can't you do it? You know, visionary with Greenland, my guess is whether it becomes a part of the United States or not, we will have strategic advantages as a result of the president's vision, whether it's the ability to go in and mine natural resources or to put military installations in that part of the world or whatever it may be. There's nothing off the table with this guy. And I would say anybody listening, don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. You can only not do something you believe you can't do it. Now, we may try something and not succeed, but that doesn't mean we can't do it just because we don't succeed the first time. I've had that happen to me many, many, many times. But like my daddy used to say, the best ability is stickability. And we got a commander in chief right now that we will have a commander in chief in about 1 week that will be living according to that mantra.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited about that. Let's talk about the California fires versus Asheville, North Carolina, and the assistance that's being handed out there. First of all, how are things going in Asheville now?
Well, I mean, it's still a precarious situation in Western North Carolina in general. There are still people that haven't gotten back into homes. There are still people that are in need of food and supplies and heat. And of course, we had our first dust of a winter storm in Western North Carolina within the last 4 days, which made it even more precarious. Certain areas have, or at least recovered to the extent that people are safer, but you still have towns that have been totally wiped out. And to make matters worse, North Carolina, unfortunately, while voting for President Trump and voting for a Republican legislature and out of the 13 members of the Congress here in North Carolina, most, other than about 3, are Republican. Despite all that, North Carolina somehow elected a Democrat governor. And that dude comes into office on the first day of the year, January 1st, signs an executive order declaring an emergency in the western part of the state. Now, bear in mind, the storm is in October. Here we are in January. The new Democrat governor declares an emergency and basically requires anyone seeking to help in Western North Carolina to sort of go through FEMA for supplies and directions and everything else. So he basically empowers FEMA, the agency that has done the most damage there, to have more power. So you ask that question. Western North Carolina is still not recovered, and over 106 dead or missing, and the region still is in need of prayer. So anybody there, please keep Western North Carolina in prayer, along with what's happening in California as well. But remember, the areas burning in California, not that, just understand that a lot of those people that have been burned out in California are extremely wealthy. You look at very wealthy areas, Pacific Palisades, now going to Brentwood. In Western North Carolina, that is not the case so much. You're talking about blue-collar people that don't always have the means to replace things. And I'm not diminishing the seriousness of what's happened in California, but I'm just explaining the difference in the demographics and the people who are harmed by all that. So, we've seen Democrat incompetence in both cases. And in Western North Carolina, FEMA has been a disaster. I've said before, and I'll say it again, Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse, that's been the one organization that's done more than anybody. And other great private organizations, charitable, like the Cajun Navy's come up from Louisiana. We've had folks come up from Florida, offering helicopter services, but it's Christian organizations and patriotic Americans who've done the most in Western North Carolina. Now, FEMA's been a disaster.
You have your Amish people who've come in. They're building houses. I mean, they're doing what they can. The Cowboy Church, American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, they have been, I think, firsthand I heard about this. Okay, Philip Gilliland is with the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches. And so he sent me a message one day, and he said, I am disgusted. Well, this guy never gets disgusted at anything, And so I said, what are you disgusted at? And he said, I have a team of people up with chuck wagons, whatever. We're trying to hand food out. We're trying to hand water out. Now, you can do without food for weeks, but you can't do without water. So they're trying to get the water out there. FEMA stops them and confiscates their water. And he said, you're going to hand it out to them? They weren't handing it. They were just putting it somewhere.
I will be interested in having some conversation with the gentleman, Donna, if there's some way you can make that happen offline.
Oh, I can make that happen. Believe me.
Yeah. But they've been obstructionists. They've been a disaster. And the new Democrat governor basically has empowered the problem. It was the great Ronald Reagan who said, and I quote him a lot, he said, government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. And that is precisely correct. And, you look at California, I mean, you've got this woke fire chief, this woke fire department. Everything is woke, this woke mayor. They're not the solution to the problem. I mean, they cut money to millions from the fire department. They sent fire equipment to Ukraine, and they used public money to have a gay men's chorus and to get this transgender cafes in the city of Los Angeles. That's how freaking foolish they are. Government is not the solution to the problem. It is the problem, especially Democrat government, because everything is focused on everything except that which matters. So, again, I'm hoping that the good people of California, I'm praying we don't have any more loss of life and that this fire can get under control, but don't go back and be like stupid is and stupid does and vote Democrat again. Vote Republican. Do not vote Democrat. You're going to get more of the same.
Oh, my God. Okay. When are we supposed to have this exodus of the elitist people in Hollywood leaving America? When is that going to happen? I keep waiting. I'll help them.
They talk big, Donna. They talk really, really big. If Trump gets elected, I'm gone. The only one that left was who's the one that left and went to Britain, and I guess that didn't work out too well. But yeah, I mean, take the first plane out. Maybe go with Karen Bass to Ghana and stay there if you want to, or wherever you want to go. Just get out of here. So
I'm good with that.
Yeah, put your money where your mouth is, liberals. Now's the time.
Well, Cher was going to leave how many years ago when Trump came in the first time? Right. She was going to leave and move to Jupiter, she said.
Oh, yeah.
What drug is she planning on taking to get to Jupiter?
Maybe Elon can provide a rocket ship for her and we can get that process underway.
Yeah, I'm sure he wouldn't care. He would help. He believes in helping the wealthy. Yeah, okay. She can go.
I'll second that.
Oh, gosh. Okay, all right. Now back to Trump again. And it's going to be magical, I think, what's happening because, and I wanted to ask your opinion because you and I are both into fair tax. I mean, it's big to us. He's implementing things that really sound like fair tax to me. He may use another system or make one up on his own. I don't care what he does. I think it's a grand idea. When you're talking about no tax on tips that Kathleen Kamala tried to take the credit for. When you talk about things like that, getting rid of the IRS, that sounds like fair tax.
Yeah, well, fair tax is you pay a tax on only what you spend, basically. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get punished for what you make. And, here we are. We've got a Republican president getting ready to, to take the oath of office. You got a Republican Congress. Now make it happen. So the IRS does need to be eliminated. It needs to be defanged along with a number of other three-letter agencies. It has to happen. There's one opportunity now to strike and make this happen. The question is, are the rhinos in Congress going to go along with it? But conceptually, we've got to continue to talk about the tax system. It's interesting because I think I may have mentioned this last month, but I was watching on your show when you're kind enough to have me. But I was watching President Trump's interview with Joe Rogan. Watched the whole thing, an hour and a half. And as I've said, I've admired the man. He personally prosecuted my client, Lieutenant Lawrence. I was able to work very closely with the White House and saw a lot of things behind the scene that showed the man's courage and determination against deep state, pushing against him that entire time. But he, in that interview with Joe Rogan, my respect for him just shot into a different stratosphere. Not that it wasn't way up there anyway, but because he was showing such a command of history and facts, and he was talking about 12 rhubarb concrete for nuclear reactors. He wanted to have small nuclear reactors, many of them around the country. Kamala Joe don't know what rhubarb concrete is, but he was going into history. He was talking about, Joe Rogan said, "What was it like to be in the White House?" He said, "Well, I wanted to see the Lincoln bedroom. I went there and saw the bedroom, and Lincoln was tall." And then he goes into this spiel about how Lincoln had this. He was kind of a depressed guy naturally, but he had this thing in his head about Robert E. Lee because he couldn't beat Robert E. Lee, and she certainly could not at first. Robert E. Lee was brilliant until U.S. Grant came along. But then he starts talking about, the McKinley administration, William McKinley, and then into Teddy Roosevelt. But it was William McKinley who was a big advocate of tariffs. And during the McKinley administration, McKinley was the president during the Spanish-American War and was eventually assassinated. But during the McKinley administration, there was we were making so much money off tariffs, we had to have a special commission to figure out what to do with money. But the other thing that struck me that had never struck me before is that it was during this period of time. This is when the Industrial Revolution took off in America, and we exploded as an industrial power, and we did it at a time when there was zero income tax. You realize that, Donna? What's like 1913 or so with the 16th Amendment? There was zero income tax. The income tax was pushed by the Democrats. And people think we can't get along with that. Oh, my goodness, we exploded and became the most powerful industrialized nation in the world without an income tax at all. The income tax is simply a measure by the government to suppress wealth and to control. You should not be punished for what you make, Donna. You shouldn't be punished. You have to pay more than somebody who makes less, because that's unfairly punitive. It's taking more from one than the other, and that isn't fair. So it's time to move forward with some sort of fair tax system under which the IRS is defanged and or totally eliminated, and we're able to pay our taxes based on how we control what we spend.
Well, this is why the government wants all this data on you. That's why they keep a check on. That's what they've been following us. I've been kicked off of Facebook how many times? You have too. We keep getting these warnings and all this stuff. So we're such evil people because we tell the truth. So the point is with fair tax, everybody pays. And if you're a visitor here, if you are an illegal and you buy a stick of chewing gum, you're going to have to pay tax just like everybody else does. And people who work under the table, I like this guy. His name is Chuck Bailey, and he's with Alabama Fair Tax. He's on the show quite a bit. And I laugh every time he says this. He's, Donna, everybody pays. Even the prostitutes, even the drug smugglers, everybody pays. If you buy anything new, you're going to pay taxes on it. That's fair. Right.
And remember, Donna, the large majority of Americans and people in this country do not pay any tax at all. It's on the backs of us, 25 to 30%.
And I'm going to tell you,
pay nothing. So when you have everybody paying, the revenues are actually going to increase. And not only that, but revenues will increase because productivity will increase. If I don't have to worry about how I'm going to, first of all, I don't have to spend, if I were in such a high income tax category, I would have to spend hundreds of thousands on tax attorneys and CPAs. But when you simplify things, you don't have to do that. I can take that money that I was going to be spending on tax attorneys and CPAs and put it into research and development and production and competition. It's a win-win situation. Absolutely.
Well, so I've been targeted. Now, this is when I was living in Charlotte, okay? And so Sarah Palin, I was a member of the Tea Party, and we were at the courthouse. We were having this event. So Phil calls, and he says, you better get away from there. And I said, why? And he said, I'm watching on the news right now, and people are being dragged away from what are y'all doing out there? And I said, we're doing nothing. We're listening to speakers. And Phil said, that's not what not what. And I said, I'll take some pictures and I'll show you. Nothing is happening here. It's probably one of the most boring meetings I've ever been to. If you take pictures, and I said, I'm not lying to you. Because he's looking out for he said, I know how you are. You'll get arrested. They like to drag you home. No,
Phil knows you, huh? Phil knows you, right?
I promise, nothing is happening here. Then right after that, I get this thing from the IRS. Okay, first of all, you hear they only go back 7 years. That's not true. They'll go back as far as they want to.
Right.
Okay, so we moved back to Alabama. I'm asking Phil not to keep all of the IRS junk that we've accumulated for 20 years. I said, it takes up room. I said, let's just burn it. We don't need all that. And Phil said, I don't trust the government. I think we need it. I'm glad he didn't listen to me, Don, because we got a letter from the IRS telling us we owed $10,000 from something like 15 years ago.
Right.
We didn't know that. Well,
right.
I'm glad he didn't. I had to prove that we did pay this. I had to prove it. So Phil finds it. We send photocopies. Out it goes to them. I get that taken off. But the problem is we had to spend hours
precisely
to get all this, to find it, and then to send everything off to them.
Precisely.
And get this, it started out as they thought that in their heads, we owed $2,000 on something. With the interest and penalties, it wound up being over $10,000 throughout the years.
Right.
Well, what if we hadn't kept up with that? Why if Phil had listened to me?
They make stuff up, and then they force you to react. And some people, will say, all right, you say, you say, oh, 10, how about I pay you 5 or 6 and call it a day? A lot of people roll like that. But it's criminal. They took your time for something that was never owed. That's a deprivation of your liberty rights. Mm-hmm. One of the main reasons they need to be dismantled. No bureaucrat should have the right to do to you what they did. Simply make a number up, insist you owe it, and then force you to try to go back and prove that it was paid. And thank goodness, of course, Phil did hang on those records, but most people don't hang on those records. And now's the time for the fair tax. So we'll see if we're going to get some major tax reform. I'm hoping and praying that we do here.
Okay, what's going to happen at the borders? Because I'm just telling you, we're being overrun right here in this little small town I'm living in right now.
You're going to see that begin to. You're going to see the open, porous borders begin to shift very drastically in about 1 week. Now, they've done a lot of damage with the 4 years of open borders they've had, and we've got a lot of problems in this country because of the damage they've done. It goes back to something I said on another episode when I was with you. The Democrats must pay for what they've done. What they have done has been treasonous in this country. This open borders policy that Biden has engaged in has been absolutely treasonous. It's let so much of these drugs in, this fentanyl, especially manufactured in China, coming across the Mexican border, that, as I've said many times, we've lost more Americans in 1 year in 2021 from fentanyl than from the entire 10 years that we were in the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And so what's going to happen is the borders are going to get sealed. But then the issue is, Trump is looking at deportation. The Democrats are going to fight that. And so we've got to get as many people out as possible. We've got to identify the ones who clearly are up to no good first and get them moving and take the rest from there. But it's going to be a war, Donna, because the Democrats are going to fight it. They're outnumbered politically. They're going to fight it. But this has been Trump's principal priority, to shut the border and then begin to deport. I think we're going to see that.
But it's all about common sense. Okay, so when COVID hits, you're shamed if you're not wearing the mask. You're shamed if you don't get the jab. You're shamed about this stuff. However, you can come across the border and not what? You don't have to wear a mask.
Right.
How do we know you're not bringing some disease in? I mean, how do we know?
Listen, Donna, that's because the Democrats are hypocrites. They have brought Ebola into this country, Donna. Hear me. They brought Ebola into this country, and we've got more of it than you know because of the Democrats' open border policy. That's why I say they must be held to account for the damage they've done to this country. And they're totally inconsistent because they try to force you or me to take a jab, and neither one of us did it. They're trying to force us to take a jab. Will they force anybody coming across the border to take a jab? Heck no. Or to be screened for COVID? No, come on in. They don't care because their intent has been the internal destruction of the nation anyway. We've got to come to grips with that.
Mm-hmm. You better believe we do. Phil and I had the flu last month. It was not a fun Christmas. It felt very COVID-like. I don't know how to explain. I've never had a flu like that before. I get it, and I was graceful enough to give Phil the gift of the flu, and he really appreciated that very much. But my point is we're having these flus and viruses that we've never had before. So all these people are starting, and I love everybody, for goodness sakes. My daughter-in-law is from Russia, for goodness sakes. But she came in the right way.
Right.
And it's this nonsense of coming in. We have rules and regulations, or you're shut down. Your business will be shut down. But you can come across the border, take your money, and give us whatever you have is a disease. That seems to be okay. I'm not good with that.
Well, of course not. But this is what the Democrats have been good with it. That's what they have turned a blind eye to. Your daughter-in-law came across legally, and legal immigration has its place. We are a country of legal immigrants. All of us immigrated at one point legally. Most of us, your audience did, whether it might have been 4, 5, 10, 6 generations ago or whatever, but it is the open borders policy that is the functional equivalent of an invasion, Donna, because not only are they bringing in these diseases, like I mentioned, Ebola, and other things, they're bringing in fentanyl that's extremely destructive. They probably brought in other weapons of mass destruction. My concern is that we haven't discovered those yet. Of course, the truck that was used in the New Orleans massacre had been brought across the border. I think at Eagle Pass in Texas, just a couple of days or so before it was used to massacre those folks down there in the French border. Democrat open border policies killing people. And nobody. If you're hearing my voice, if you want to vote for Democrat, you're asking for destruction. So there must be massive rejection of the Democrat Party for what it's done to this nation.
Insane. Okay, Dawn, we've got 2 minutes left in this segment. Man, time flies and you're having fun. Okay, talk with folks about how they can get in contact with you to purchase your books.
Thanks. Well, you can go to DonBrownBooks.com, go to Amazon and type in Don Brown author. It's all there. You might even be able to find me on Wikipedia. Who knows? But you can also email me at donbrownbooks@gmail.com if you'd like to chat. I'm always happy to chat with Donna's viewers and listeners, and so happy that we're about to get rid of the worst American president in history, and we're gonna see a new day dawning here in about 1 week. So we're grateful for that. Grateful to be with you, Donna.
Well, it's grateful to be with you, but I got to add this about Trump. I think fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And I think that's his attitude. However, I think a lot of this is to keep people squirming, because I think success comes first. And that's how you can crush your competitor. You can crush them by just letting them go, and you just be successful. And I think that's what he's going to do.
Probably right.
But nothing wrong with letting them squirm and wonder, right?
Make them go to bed wondering every night, like President Reagan once said about the Iranians. When Sam Donald said, Mr. President, what are you going to do? Governor Reagan, what are you going to do about the hostages when you're going to become president? Reagan, who was still governor, about to be sworn in, said, well, Sam, that's for them to go to bed wondering every night. And I think Trump's got that same philosophy.
I think so, too. And I think you do, too. That's why you're so successful. And thank you guys so much for watching Donna's Edge Talk Show. We're successful because we have the most wonderful guests and the greatest sponsors and the greatest audience. Thank you so much for watching. Continue sending emails, Donna@Donna'sEdge.com. Bye, Don, and bye, everybody else. Don, hang around so we can get you set up for next month.
Thank you, Don.
Bye-bye.